Serious, what could happen to make 2020 worse? Food shortage. Didn't Tyson just shut down a bunch of its plants too? I think only like 2 plants. I think Smithfield has done the same with their pork plants. War. Pretty much. This can become infinitely worse if some major countries decided to fight each other. A huge solar storm that knocks out the power grid. We're currently in solar minutes, so this is unlikely. Unlikely. 8 I must start prepping, I guess. Unlikely in 2020 means next month. 2020 is already full up with unlikely. First coronavirus, then coronal mass ejection. I nearly lost my house to bushfires in late December/early January. Now I'm most stuck inside said house thanks to COVID-19. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a freaking flood that suddenly ends the decade-long drought the region has suffered from. I have accepted that anything's possible at this stage. Oklahoma had 5 years of drought followed by 2 months where we got a total of 2 years worth of rain a few years back. That wasn't fun. Stay safe. A supervolcano erupting. Mount St. Helens is due for one. Not sure if that is classified as a super, but still. Geologist here. We are notoriously bad at predicting when, how big volcanic eruptions and earthquakes will be. Saying one is due doesn't mean anything. Events are sometimes periodic, and sometimes not. If you've gone a long time without an event, you might get a big one next, and you might not. The best indicator is a sudden increase in seismicity, but that can also lead to nothing. Isn't saying we are due for something basically saying within a few thousand years? When you read stuff about Yellowstone, it's often the volcano erupts once every 600, 800, 000 years and the last eruption was 630,000 years ago, so we're overdue. Being due for an eruption at this point really means sometime in the next 170,000 years. The average time between the last 3 eruptions has been 700,000 years, and the caldera itself has been subsiding, the opposite direction you would expect it to go if an eruption were imminent, for the last 5 years. That thing likely isn't going off in the lifetime of anyone in this thread. Especially when once every 600-800k years has a somewhat verifiable sample size of like 2 or 3. At least that was my understanding. COVID-19 mutates and becomes way more deadly. Look on the bright side. If it hits the fan hard enough, a lot of student loans will suddenly vanish. I'd trade a Road Warrior's existence for my student loans. COVID-19 is playing Plague Inc. And that would be the next step. If you don't know, we now have to worry about giant hornets. The obvious things have been covered, which are large scale, but people often don't comprehend them. So the things which could make 2020 worse for you. Death of a loved one. Loss of home. Loss of job, with no chance of getting another one. The sudden realization that you're going to be 30 and have achieved nothing, progressed nowhere, have few friends who care, and will be spending your birthday effectively alone due to lockdown. My 30th birthday is today. This hits too close. Hurricane. I live in Florida. Hurricanes, as in more than one making landfall, would be worse than that. Imagine what would happen if there was an evacuation during a lockdown. Black hole gets created. Another economic crisis worse than the Great One, and governments falling due to the crisis. Researchers discover that there's never going to be a vaccine. Alien invasions or huge tornadoes across the globe. Honestly, at this point nothing is too unlikely to happen. Alien invasion. At this point, they're probably just waiting for us to wipe ourselves out. Work smarter, not harder, right? Well, we haven't had a big asteroid in a while. A large-scale terrorist attack. Answer. If one of my very good friends committed suicide. Seriously, I spent the past 12 hours making sure that didn't happen. Take care of your loved ones in every way possible. When bans get lifted, mass hookups and then herpes outbreaks. Not to mention there's going to be a huge increase in Christmas, New Year's babies in a large portion of the world. I'm actually positive we won't see an increase. I feel like people are less likely to have unprotected sex during these times. because we aren't really sure when this is going to be over. This little thing called Yellowstone turns out to be slightly worse than expected. Well, aside from an obvious second wave of COVID that's going to happen, loss to the power grid or other services like water or sewage, civil unrest when people realize that this quarantine and epidemic are going to make the rich richer and the poor will get poorer, alien invasion, or a faked alien invasion, martial law, extreme food shortages. The self-isolation ban lifts too soon and COVID-19 keeps spreading. Which is gonna happen? Yup, I think the same, unfortunately. Happening. The Black Plague lockdown lasted for like 10 years I think, and then we're in 4 months with this whole COVID-19 thing, and the governors are opening up beauty parlors again because their wife apparently needs a haircut that badly. This is horrible, but not the Black Plague. Yellowstone erupting. Look on the bright side. If this happens, most people in the continental US won't have time to lament it. Don't remember the name, but there's some island off the coast of Africa, and once a piece of it breaks off, it would cause a worldwide mega tsunami. Places like NYC would see nearly 100-foot waves. I think it's called the La Palma tsunami. Nuclear winter. Based on the progression of plagues. Death of the firstborn. Crap, I'm a firstborn. Japanese giant hornets start carrying COVID-19. A Great Depression. Aliens do happen and they aren't friendly. Betty White passes away. Hurricane season is expected to be particularly harsh this year, as well as record-breaking heat waves, but that may be a mostly American problem. Other possibilities include a COVID-19 mutation that makes it more lethal, complete economic collapse, war/political uprisings, drought and famine causing food shortages, and unforeseen natural disasters. Personally, I'm feeling a tsunami, but I like super rabies as a wild card. I'm just waiting for people to find out that COVID-19 also makes you infertile. Natural disasters. Well, murder hornets are here now, so there's that. People not willing to social distance and a resurgence of COVID infections occurring, creating a second, third wave swamping hospitals. Wiping out the electrical grid. To me, my best friend dying. He told us before has severe asthma issues and something like what's happening right now could potentially kill him. And to be honest, I try to check up on him every day to make sure he's still with me. And then a meteor hit. And they ran as fast as they could. From giant cat monsters. And then a giant tornado came. And that's when things got knocked into 12th gear. A Mexican armada shows up, with weapons made from tomatoes. Something called everyone launches their nukes at each other. Hurricane Cat 3 or higher, in NJ, both states have been hit hard by the pandemic and are already stretched thin. A strong hurricane would be devastating. Massive civil unrest within the US bringing us to another civil war. North Korea launches a successful nuclear missile and hits a city in California. 4 more years. So many things. Just today, the Japanese giant hornet has started to permeate through the country. They hurt like hell, kill wildlife, and kill people. In the attempt to make a cure for the coronavirus, something goes wrong and a new and deadlier virus appears. Or an alien invasion. Or Lovecraftian horror ends up being real. The insect apocalypse. It. Please don't jinx us all. World War III actually happening. The second wave of corona being worse than this one. And those are just the worst ones that could happen. Second and third wave of corona cases and deaths to be worse than the first. A crash on something like the internet caused by too much usage at one time. Or running out of a basic necessity like milk for a long time. I could see riots over something like that. A new strain of COVID-19, or another similarly virulent pathogen, but with a 90% fatality rate. It would snuff itself out well before it became an epidemic with that death rate. Coronal mass ejection takes down the power grid. Aliens. Zombies. Betty White. World War III, another Great Depression, second wave of COVID. The self-isolation goes on too long and the economy crashes, burns, and countless starve. Kim Jong-un is actually dead and someone far worse and more competent takes over and causes the next war. I already lost the girl I loved and my job. Anything else that happens now is a blessing as far as I'm concerned. I'm too much of a coward to kill myself, so hopefully whatever comes next actually does. Economic crash. That's already happening. Realistically, possibility a terrorist attack. We kinda forgot about what happens at the beginning of this year with the US killing a high-ranking general. They could quite possibly planning an attack against the US. North and South Korea start fighting each other. My dog dying. He's getting older and I hope he has a year or two left. I don't want him to go now, especially not now. Death of electoral democracy in the name of saving lives. Second wave of COVID-19 gets more people infected because they won't follow another governmental shutdown and quarantine, and it gets deadlier. And that's all for now. Make sure to like, subscribe and click that bell notification for more /Reddit network videos. Thanks and come again.